I had exactly 5 seconds between the sound of ribs breaking that I heard on my phone and the moment when it was supposed to happen to me in reality. They say that if your phone rings with a completely black screen, do not answer. It's not a call. This is a broadcast of your future, which has already come for you. I'm an engineer. I'm used to believing facts and figures, not urban legends. But when I heard the sound of my own backseat glass breaking over the speaker, even though the car was deathly silent, I realized that rule number 2 was written in blood for a reason. My name is Mike, and if you're watching this video, it means I still exist in the present. But after what happened in Sector 4, I'm no longer sure which of my versions is talking to you right now. February in our city is not a month, it is a sentence. It always rains here, which seems thick and black like mascara. The neon signs of the eateries spread out in puddles, turning the asphalt into a palette of decomposed rainbows. After I left the security company, I tried to find a normal job, but Sector 4 won't let you go for nothing. My mail was filled with strange notifications, and at night there was a hum in my apartment that no devices recorded. I decided to leave. That night, I packed up the essentials in an old sedan and headed out onto the highway. The plan was simple: cross the city line and never look back. But the rain was getting heavier. The wipers were working at their limits, making a nasty rhythmic creak that was slowly driving me crazy. I stopped at an abandoned gas station, the one that stands on the edge of an industrial area. There wasn't a soul around. There was only the endless sound of water hitting the roof of the car and the occasional flash of distant lightning that momentarily picked out the silhouettes of empty warehouses from the darkness. It is at such moments that reality becomes as thin as old paper. My phone was on the passenger seat. It was an old brick that I used back on night shift duty. Modern gadgets were going crazy in the sector zone, and this device was as reliable as a tank. At least that's what I thought. At 3:14, a bell broke the silence in the cabin. It wasn't my usual tune. It was a harsh, dissonant sound, similar to an alarm at a nuclear power plant. I shuddered and reached for the phone. In the dim light of the salon, I saw something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. The phone screen was black, not off black, but deep, absorbing light, as if an abyss had opened inside the case. No number, no name, no key lights. Just a dead, vibrating darkness. I remembered the crumpled manual that the previous guard had left me. On the last page, written with a trembling hand, was rule number 2. If the screen is black, do not pick up the phone. It's not a call. This is a broadcast of the future. I didn't want to answer. My finger hovered over the button, and one thought was throbbing in my head. Put it down. Throw it out the window. But at that moment, the car shuddered from a strong gust of wind, and I lost my balance and accidentally pressed the receive button. There was no hello or breathing from the speaker. For the first few seconds, there was absolute vacuum-like silence. And then it started. First, I heard the rain. But it wasn't the rain that was falling outside now. The sound in the phone was clearer, louder, as if the microphone was standing right under the jets of water. Then there was the sound of footsteps. Heavy, dragging footsteps on metal. Slap the rattle. Slap. I sat there, afraid to move. I looked out the windshield, but I only saw my frightened eyes in the reflection. The footsteps on the phone were getting louder. They were getting closer. Over the speaker, I heard someone or something approach my car. I heard the sound of long, sharp claws sliding across the driver's door. I slowly lowered my gaze to my door. There was nothing there. just raindrops. And then I broke out in a cold sweat. I understood the concept of broadcast. The phone was relaying to me the sounds of what would happen here in a few moments. It wasn't a reflection delay like that time. It was a delay of reality itself. There was a deafening crackle in the speaker, the sound of breaking glass. I heard my own voice from the phone, a short, choking cry of terror. And then the sound of something heavy jumping into the back seat, crushing the upholstery. In my reality, the car was still quiet, but I knew I had exactly 5 seconds. I didn't check how accurate my calculations were. I yanked the key in the ignition. The engine sneezed, threw out a cloud of smoke, but started up. I stepped on the gas pedal so hard that the sole of my shoe almost cracked. The car roared and took off, tearing up puddles. The moment the speedometer needle crossed the 40 mark, I heard it crash. The back window of my car shattered into thousands of pieces, just as I had heard on my phone a second earlier. A cold wind and splashes of rain rushed into the cabin. I didn't turn around. I knew that if I looked in the rear view mirror, I would see something that had already taken its place in my back seat at that phone time. I raced along the highway without turning on the headlights, guided only by the occasional flash of lightning. The phone was still in call mode, and now there was a whisper coming from it. "You're fast." The voice sounded like it was made up of thousands of grinding grains of sand. "But your echo is already here. It's sitting behind your back." I flew out onto a lighted section of highway near the city checkpoint. The light of the sodium lamps seemed to me the most beautiful sight in my life. I braked sharply at a patrol car, almost crashing into it. The policeman got out of the car, squinting at my wrecked sedan in disbelief. I grabbed the phone to show him this black screen, this call from hell. But the machine was dead. It literally melted in my hand. The plastic became as soft as wax, and acrid smoke, with the smell of burnt flesh, was coming from inside. A policeman examined my car. "Boy, where did you get so attached?" "The glass is completely blown out, and what's that on the seat?" I turned around slowly. There was no monster in the back seat. There was no killer there. There was a pile of wet, black mud that looked like a human figure, and deep scorched marks from long fingers were visible on the upholstery of the ceiling. I don't work in security anymore. I live in another state, in a house where there is not a single mirror and not a single phone. My friends think I'm crazy, but I don't care. Last night I was sitting in the living room reading a book by candlelight, and suddenly there was a sound in the empty hallway. My old Nokia, which I buried in a concrete block in the garden 3 months ago, started ringing. I didn't hear a sound. I felt a vibration all over the floor of the house. Rhythmic, heavy crackling. If your phone rings and the screen stays black, don't run. It's useless. Just know that your future has already taken on a challenge, and it follows you with a delay of 5 seconds.